My name is Diane Mueller. I'm the community manager for OpenShift, which is a Red Hat sponsored open source project for a platform as a service. How many of you in the room have used OpenShift before? There's a couple of you. So we'll see how deep we have to dive down the wormhole to explain what OpenShift is and how we leverage Puppet today. So I picked the topic today, building community one Puppet module at a time, because we've done a lot of work automating the application lifecycle using platform as a service. But under the hood, to deploy and install OpenShift, which in and of itself is a very complex application, we do a lot of work with Puppet. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is PaaS, what is OpenShift Origin, because I think there's a distinction there. There's lots of platform as a service out there. If you were out walking the halls, you probably saw a few people, a few other vendors doing that as well. I'm going to talk about how OpenShift specifically has leveraged Puppet in our install process. I'll walk a little bit through. I'll show you where to find all the skeletons, where the Puppet modules are hidden on GitHub and on Puppet Forge. And then what I'm going to do is going to hand over the mic to my pal and community member here, Diego Castro, who's come up from Brazil. And he has stood up a public platform as a service offering in Brazil using all the open source side of OpenShift and doing it on Amazon. And I'll explain a little bit of that. And then what I'm really here to do is try and figure out how to get you all involved in tweaking and adding to my Puppet modules. And that's not going to work, so we'll just do this. So the point of origin for everything today, if you want to get anything about Origin, is GitHub. As I said, it's an open source project. Red Hat sponsors about 100,000 plus open source projects, and this is one of them. It's a very important piece of their cloud offering. And you can find everything that I'm talking about today if you go to openshiftgithub.io. It'll walk you through all the installation guides, the Puppet modules, how to use it, contributor guides. Everything that I talk about today will be here and easy to find there. So what is OpenShift Origin? Some of you, two of you, I think, in the audience have actually used OpenShift. And hundreds of you came by the booth today and yesterday, so I've explained it quite a bit. But it's platform as a service. It's the level above the infrastructure as a service in the cloud that allows you to manage and deploy your applications. It's the application lifecycle enablement layer of the cloud is the way that I like to look at it. And so infrastructure as a service really just gives you servers in the cloud. So it'll spin you up the compute resources with the CPU and everything that you need. But when you get those, when you get to Amazon and you spin up an instance, or if you're using, how many OpenStackers here? Any OpenStackers? A couple of OpenStackers. So if you're using Heat or if you're deploying OpenStack, you'll get a nice big Linux box that's empty. And then you're on the hook, especially if you're like me and you're a developer, for making sure your app servers are there, your database is there, your language. I'm a Python developer. You can get me at Python DJ on Twitter. And I give away all kinds of interesting hints about deploying Python in the cloud, if you want to follow me there. But you're on the hook still with just infrastructure. And the applications we develop are the icing on the cake, the SaaS as a service. But, and SaaS as a service can be anything as simple as your Google Mail or your Gmail or CRM. There's a lot of Salesforce people here. But you're really, when you're just use someone else's SaaS offering, you're restricted to that third-party application and however you can extend it. So really what platform as a service does is it allows you to automate the deployment of a lot of diverse and complex application use cases. And I know I'm talking to Puppet people here, and that Puppet people are great at creating the scripts and the modules to deploy complex applications. But when you're doing it, you're usually doing it in a one-off or for a specialized, customized case. And when we're doing it, we're what we call a polyglot. We do it for all kinds of applications and all kinds of languages and frameworks and Tomcat. And someone just created for OpenShift an IBM WebSphere cartridge. So we're now supporting that. And we also have community partners in Uhuru Software that are helping us deploy native .NET applications within our platform as a service. So what we've done is figured out a way to automate all of that on top of anybody's infrastructure, whether it's Amazon, OpenStack, CloudStack, bare metal, VMware's cloud, anybody's cloud. We give you, because it's an open source project, all of the source code to deploy it and all of the installation scripts, which are all done in Puppet. So it helps you create uniform, secure containers for your applications that are easily audited and meet with your compliance and risk standards. And because it's Red Hat, it runs on RHEL 6.5 or CentOS 6.5. And it just works, and it does a very nice job of automating all of that. So some of this, it really, we use it a lot to streamline our app development process. So we may stand up a private PaaS on one cluster of machines to do all our testing and QA, and then we know that the container that we put when we're going in production into a PaaS is going to be exactly the same. So what it has done and has changed the game, and we started this project in late 2010. I think we open sourced it in 2011. So it's been around for a while. It's a pretty stable project. But we really have gone from the days when I had to go into the enterprise and ask for an RFP to fill out a form to get a server and get everything stood up. Where now the developers can come, log in, spin up an app, a new app without really so much as doing a single piece of paper. It's pretty simple, and it allows you to do all the business process and policy management and identity management for those developers. So you as the sysadmins and the IT organization folks can set the rules, and we'll talk about different gears and different nomenclatures, but when you deploy it yourself, you get to set the size of all of the resources and the limitations and how high and much it can scale up. That said, you also get to do a lot of other interesting things too. So baseline OpenShift Origin comes with a lot of cartridges and ready to run things, lots of different frameworks. If I put them all in here, you wouldn't be able to read any of them. But it runs, will automatically run all of your middleware for you. We're big JBoss and Jenkins users and support a lot of that. I'm, as I said, a Python person, so I've been doing a lot of different Python frameworks, Django, Flask, and all sorts of fun stuff. And all of that is available, and you can customize it in your own deployment, which ones you want to make available to your developers, so you can actually control it or open it up as wide as you'd like. For OpenShift, there's actually 3 flavors. Origin, I'm the community manager and project manager for OpenShift Origin, and that's where all the code goes. It's all in GitHub, as I said. Everything is there, including the install scripts. We at Red Hat also host, we eat our own dog food, is the way that I like to say it. We host OpenShift online. We have over 2 million applications that have been deployed on our public platform as a service offering. And the wonderful thing about that is that those 2 million apps are all testing and beating on my project and giving us feedback and bug fixes and all kinds of cool stuff. Getup Cloud is also using the exact same code base, and they've deployed on Amazon in Brazil the same code base, but they've tweaked it out differently to use different pieces of Amazon's ecosystem. He's going to talk a little bit about CloudFormations and using S3 when he does it. So the same code base is available for any of you to use, either to host your own public PaaS. If you want to be the next Heroku, you can do that with this. And once it's been through the life cycle of being part of the online thing, we push it out into an enterprise offering, and we sell to all kinds of, that's how we've productized, and that's what pays my bills. So my real mission and Origin's real mission is really to build the next generation of platform as a service. So if you go now to OpenShift Online, it's a Ruby's app that uses mCollective and uses a whole MongoDB to store state. There's a whole lot of great things underneath it, and it's very robust. But Origin is always about 3 months to 4 months ahead of what's in the online offering. And right now we're actually at our milestone 5, which is basically creating using Google Kubernetes to do container management and wrapping up our applications going from source and creating Docker images. So we're orchestrating Docker images in the latest release. So that will come to the online community eventually. So we're really, as a community, we're really into working with other communities. So one of our big things is about how many different communities do we actually interrelate with. We have, as I said, over 2 million folks using it in production on the online service. We have tons of customers using it in government agencies and all over the place. We have a metaphor that we call cartridges, which is an way people add new things, like there's a cartridge that just was recently added for IBM WebSphere. So we have, I think, over 600 cartridges and quick starts that people have contributed to the community. We have a whole host of people who are core developers from lots of different communities and lots of different people besides Getup Cloud who are using OpenShift to host it as well. So for us, it's really not about Red Hat, it's about the community of people that we have to interact with and how much we can leverage of other things that people make. Because I think core to our success has always been not reinventing the wheel. So I talk a lot about cross-community collaboration, but one thing that we're really cognizant of, and especially at Red Hat where we're hosting and sponsoring and working on over 100,000 different open source projects, that we often, like with the CentOS community and the Fedora community, will often go in and embed resources into projects like Docker and Kubernetes. And we've done a lot of work with the Puppet community, and we're really pleased with the way the community is here and very happy to have been able to work with this community. Because this is, as I say, the key to our success. So one of the things about the OpenShift community is we take your pull requests. There's no pay-to-play barrier. If you're working on it, if you're a customer or a Red Hat solution architect maybe, or a hosting provider or somebody else, and you find a bug or you need to do an enhancement or something's not working right in the Puppet module, we are in the top 5 in all of GitHub for people who have merged other people's pull requests. It's been really an amazing adventure working with so many different people. It's a pretty huge community of people. So for us, we look at the Puppet community as an opportunity to learn more from the way that you're deploying things and the way that you're working and evolving Puppet, and we're very pleased to be able to bring that back into OpenShift. So, you know, as I said, it's a huge community. It's been around for quite a long time. In internet years. And this is interesting to me because this is from Olo, which renamed itself like OpenHub or something like that the other day. But they're picking up the Ruby, and they're not picking up that we just actually rewrote all of OpenShift Origin in Go. So it's still listing us as Go, as Puppet. But today, really, what it's all about is Puppet. And so we do a lot of the actual complex application that is the platform as a service is all currently written in Ruby and Rails. But Puppet is what we use to do all of our deployment and all of our installation. And so they're both, it's both hosted in our repository on GitHub, and it's also hosted in the Puppet Forge as well, which got me, I think, a really nice little contributor ribbon there. So, but the real question is, what is it that we're deploying? And so it is actually, and if you're new to Puppet, it's a great way, if you take a look at those Puppet modules that are there, it's a great way to see how we do some auto-scaling and deployment and installation we have a broker that's, we do redundant brokers, and we can have them so that they look at all the nodes where the applications are living. And we have to manage all of this complex application and deploy it with Puppet. So what we call brokers, just before Diego goes into talking about some of the nomenclature that we use, which it's always evolving, is our broker is really what's doing the orchestration of the nodes, which are where the gears live, the gears are where your applications live. So if you think about Docker containers, we branded them as gears when we first launched, and now in the new iterations, they'll all be called Docker images, but they'll still have gears. And cartridges are the way that we extend it. So if you have a framework or a database or something like that that's special, or you want a special tweaked out version of it, you can always fork one of our cartridges and deploy it as your own and share it with the community. So an application is actually considered an instance of a cartridge deployed inside of a gear. And there's lots of client tools. That has a REST API, so you can use our CLI. It's embedded into Eclipse and a number of other IDEs. We have a web console that's really easy to use for deploying and managing everything. But the other thing that's really, we've used a lot of Puppet for is this new site. If you've installed OpenShift before, you probably remember the old OO-install, which is where we kept all of our Puppet things. And now we've taken Puppet to the next level and created a whole guided way of going through and deploying Puppet with just a very nice Puppet-based wizard. And it works very well, and it makes it so that people with a single command can start deploying and working on getting their OpenShift deployed. So it's been very helpful for us. The thing about OpenShift, because it is an open source thing, is that we've had lots of folks from build and add new modules into it, and that's where we get our reputation for taking everybody's pull requests. Cisco was going to come and do part of this presentation, but his travel budget got cut a little bit. But this gentleman, Diane from Cisco, contributed and went and forked all of our a few months back, or probably 6 months back, forked all of our work and made it all so that we could do HA deployments. So that all came in from community, Cisco has a big OpenShift deployment. They wanted HA, they wanted it to be able to deploy it in Puppet, and they made it, and then they donated it back to the entire community. So now we have HA that's all been contributed by community members. So I'm going to segue here a little bit. Not only did, so he's going to talk a lot about Puppet and how Getup Cloud does it, but Getup Cloud has been a wonderful contributor to the community, and they've done much more than just contribute Puppet. So though he's going to talk about that, we really appreciate all the work that the Getup Cloud guys have done over the past few years working on it as they've stood up their public cloud and learned a lot of lessons. That DevOps and that learning and the sysadmin side of it has really helped grow the OpenShift code base. So I'm going to stop for a minute and let you talk a little bit. You want to switch over? Is there any questions while he does that? Is anybody ready now to deploy OpenShift with one click?
Okay. I'm Diego. I work at Getup Cloud. I'm CTO at Getup Cloud. So I'm going to show you how we deploy OpenShift with CloudFormation and Puppet. Okay. I'm going to show you how we use it to deploy without Puppet. I'm going to talk about how it's our deployment system based on CloudFormation and Puppet, and some issues that we found, and questions. Okay, how we do without Puppet? Is anybody here use EC2 already? Okay, so let's go. We need a security group, we need an instance, we need a Task ABS, we need a DNS zone, we need to create some alarms, and then we start the Origin install. So it takes too much time. We can scale it, and OpenShift Origin installation, it's huge. The deployment guide, it's very huge, and it's very complex to get it up and running, so it doesn't work. So how we do automagically? We use Puppet for installing and configuration tool, and use CloudFormation for deployment tool from EC2. Anybody here know CloudFormation? Oh, cool, nice. Okay, so CloudFormation, it's a template service which you can deploy all of the EC2 Amazon resources like EC2, RDS, CloudFront, S3. You can also you make your infrastructure as a code, so you avoid repeating yourself, and you write a JSON code, and every time you need a new resource, you spin up this template, and you get your results running. And it's a JSON, so it's very easy to use with any SCM. It's very nice, and it's very simple also. Oh, you can also use reuse the same template for different zones or different regions. Doesn't matter. So the template anatomy, it's very simple also. You have the format version, the description, parameters, mappings, resources, and outputs. The only section that is mandatory, it's the resource. So you can write just a little piece of code, and you can get a S3 bucket running very easy. Metadata, it's one of the most important things that we use. It's a special property for EC2. It only works for EC2 instances. And the metadata, it works also the same as Puppet works, but you can define some files, service, packages, and you can also pass some parameters to your Puppet module. So when the machine boots up, you can tell what service you want to be running or or not. You can tell what packages you want to install and what files and what inside the files you want to get it. It's the same idea of Puppet, but it's not powerful as Puppet. Just to boot up the machine. This section in bold, it's the section that you actually pass to your Puppet module. So I have my roles and some parameters that I can't get it from Factor, so I have to put in my template and pass to my module. Another thing is you need a CFN Factor plugin to be able to read this data, because it's not by default, and in Amazon site it's available to install. UserData, it's another section from EC2. So this section, you define what scripts will be running when the machine first starts. So it only runs once. Sorry, my only, and so in this parameter, this script, I tell to start CFN init. This guy reads the metadata from another section I show you, and then they start the booting process. It's nice to use this guy. You can avoid using this guy, doesn't matter, but you can simply put here like Puppet apply and then start your deployment. But this guy, if anything goes wrong, like, okay, I couldn't install the package of the Puppet package. I couldn't install it. Okay, they start the whole back process. So if anything goes wrong, the CloudFormation take care of it and start destroying your machine without any problems. It's clear? Is that clear? Okay. Okay. Auto-sign, you have to do it automagically. you have to use AutoSign, otherwise, every time you start a new machine, you have to go to Puppet Master and then sign the certificate. It's the same, doesn't work. So you can run with masterless, but you less some cool stuff like dashboard, like the search queries from Hiera and PuppetDB, and it also makes hard you synchronize your model with all the instance. So the best way to do it is using Puppet Master. Some issues that we have found, it's the fun starts here. It doesn't work for RHEL or CentOS stock images. So you start a machine and run your cloud init, and every time the rollback process starts. So I don't know why this guy does that, but really? It's really that. So if you want to run RHEL, CentOS, or Debian, whatever you want, you have to bake your own image. Just install the CloudFormation scripts and Cloud Init. Some distros even has Cloud Init installed, so you have to bake your own image. It's pretty easy, but it's annoying because you can use the stock images.
Yeah. And they're creating a CentOS stock image as we speak, so that should work fine.
Yeah, maybe somebody help them. The only image that works if Ubuntu and the Amazon AWS Linux stock image. Those two works pretty well. Well, Puppet Master, it's a point of failure, so make sure your Puppet Master it's always up and running. Without Puppet Master, you don't have magic, so please do something. Inside Amazon, we have a lot of cool tools to build some HA or self-healing, so make sure it's always running. You also had to handle the certificate cleanup. Sometimes we need reuse the host names, and if you don't clean up the certificate, doesn't matter what you do, your machine never brings up. Puppet Master doesn't accept it, so make sure you have some scripts, doesn't matter what, but make sure when you reuse host names, make sure this will be cleaned up. This doc, it's very nice, it's from Amazon. It shows you how you integrate Puppet. They have all the examples I show you and all the cool tricks to get it running, so don't forget to access. And also the Puppet, so the CloudFormation scripts, Amazon has a bunch of documentation, so never forget to read it. Our beloved deployment guide. This deployment guide even exists when we started 2 years ago running OpenShift, so you are lucky. You have both Puppet module and a deployment guide, and it's huge. There's like
it's very, very detailed. So pretty much anything that there's probably a very good in-depth article on anything that you need to get it up and installed. So, and he was probably one of the contributors to some of this documentation.
Yeah. You probably get lost with these all pages, but it's good when something goes wrong, you can always look it up. Oh, he also shows how you implement like MongoDB, HA, ActiveMQ, AJ, mCollective, and the DNS stuff with replication, and it's very nice. Okay, I did it. Anybody has questions?
All right, they're all ready to rock and roll. So once you switch over to the other. So part of what we're trying to show here a little bit today is that, and actually, why don't you go to where your GitHub repo is, so they can find
Okay.
that. That was the other thing. So everything that you see here, all of his Puppet scripts, they're working on making them all open source available. They do have to be a little genericized because they're pretty specific to Getup Cloud, but they've been really great about contributing back their information and everything, all their lessons learned for doing this. At OpenShift Online, we do things slightly differently. So our scripts, where we are eating our own dog food and doing DevOps there, we're using Puppet quite extensively too. And so our installation guides are all based on our practical experience, but the work that these guys are doing is all there. So it should be just GitHub.
Okay, almost there.
You're almost there.
Okay, our GitHub.
You were in it a minute ago. If you go there and just
Puppet, it's also
Puppet. And some of
it's
these,
not open source yet. Sorry guys about that, but at the early days, we had no time to clean it up, and only works for Amazon. It won't work if you have another cloud provider, or if you have like your own machines. It won't work. It's very attached to Amazon, so that's why we couldn't merge with the Puppet Origin module, but we implemented.
Yeah, so one of the things about the install scripts for that are in the OpenShift directory is they work on, whether you're doing it on bare metal, on CloudStack, on OpenStack, or AWS, you tell it where you're deploying to, and they run generically very nicely. So that's a little bit, but we do they've been pushing back information, so we've been tweaking things out using a lot of the lessons we've learned from these guys. So that's cool. Yeah, I'll just slide back, and then I'll show you where all the other skeletons are.
Oh, okay.
And that's, oops, and I think you're in, I'm going to pull it up so that, so where is the slide deck there? You want to pull this, can you? Yeah, my slides, yeah. There we go, shuffle. All right, I'm just going to ding, 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 very fast. So you can find us very easily. There's a lot of us on Google Hangouts. I think there's about 2,000 of us now that are part of the Google community for OpenShift. If you're looking for all of the work, it's all, as I said before, on openshift.github.io. You'll see the main server repo. There's a whole lot of repos there. There's OpenShift extras, OpenShift dev tools, and that. But the community cartridges are if you're looking for them, are in the Origin community cartridges there. And all of the Puppet stuff is in Puppet OpenShift-Origin. The whole project itself is Apache v2. It really is a meritocracy. If you want to get involved in it, if you're Puppet experts and you're deploying this and you find something, you can even just give us a bug fix, do code reviews on it. Anything is happily accepted. We've really been working hard on this latest release of Origin. That is the one that uses Docker images and is leveraging Google Kubernetes and Project Atomic, another project inside of Red Hat. So if you're interested in using some of those and testing out some of the latest and greatest stuff, let me know after the speech and I'll show you how to get a hold of that. That is also all in GitHub as well. So none of this is hidden behind a firewall. We develop everything in the open, and we're really looking for everybody's feedback on this project. So there's a lot of mailing lists as well, but the place to find us is really on IRC in OpenShift or on OpenShift-Dev. OpenShift-Dev is probably more for the sysadmin and the ops and the Puppet folks. That's where all of us who are actually running and standing up OpenShift deployments live and breathe, and OpenShift is where all those 2 million users come and ask questions there and on Stack Overflow. So really, the key for us is to get you guys involved and find out you're the experts on Puppet. These guys at Getup Cloud have done an awesome job of making it sing and fly very fast on Amazon, but there are a lot of other different ways to use OpenShift as well. So we're really interested in, we're responsible because we're the project folks to make sure that it runs on every platform. Genericizing always leaves out some special tweaks. So if there's things that you're interested in adding onto it, we definitely are interested in talking with you guys. So please feel free to bring it up and ask us questions. As we always like to say, is that you should always adopt an open source PaaS as soon as possible. And that's the way we believe you'll maximize your infrastructure and also get rid of some of the mundane tasks that you are currently writing one-off Puppet scripts and tooling for. You can leverage the platform as a service to do that level of automation for your developers and keep them out of your hair. So we're really looking for people to contribute to our Puppet modules, so come and see me afterwards. If you'd like to try it for free or come and visit us in the booth, you can go to OpenShift.com and you can play with it on OpenShift Online. There is a free tier, so you can deploy 3 apps and scale them up and scale them down as you like. And all these slides will be available on OpenShift. So all the URLs that just floated by, they'll be there, and you can get started right away. So that's what we had today. We did that with 2 minutes to spare. Is anyone, any questions? Anybody would like to talk? Please find us in the hallway afterwards. All right, thanks.